Good morning. The subcommittee will come to order. I welcome the witnesses and subcommittee members to today's hearing. As I've often said in the subcommittee, this is not a bipartisan committee. This is a nonpartisan committee, and we owe that to those who have served our country. This legislative hearing will continue in that spirit. We've got 14 important legislative proposals to consider here today. It's important to note that not all of these proposals will move forward to the legislative process. We hold legislative hearings to learn from VA and other groups about their views on the bills to ensure members are making informed decisions, and when they do or do not, mark them up. We value the insight provided by these stakeholders and agencies as an essential part of this process. A number of these proposals seek to improve education programs for Americans veterans to ensure that taxpayers' dollars are used responsibly, and I specifically want to highlight three of my bills that are on today's agenda. My first bill will modernize the requirements for Vet Success on Campus officers, or VSOCs, and allow employees to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree in the relevant field of study instead of a master's degree. This change would allow our VSOCs to serve more students and veterans on campus without a degradation of those services. Another bill that I have is restoring the VA Home Loan Program in Perpetuity Act. This legislation would limit the number of direct loans VA is authorized to purchase back to what the VA had traditionally done before the creation of the VA Services Purchase Program, or VASP. I believe if we don't change VASP, this program will continue to be a Trojan horse on VA's books that could ruin the VA Home Loan Program forever. Listen, the two greatest programs ever developed by this government are the GI Bill and the VA Home Loan Program, and I'm not going to allow either one of those to fail. I have used my right to get a home loan I've used my VA home loan guarantee to buy homes several times, and if the Biden version of VASP is allowed to continue, I fear that the home loan will not exist in the future for my fellow veterans. My bill is needed to change to protect the benefit that has helped so many veterans since 1943. My final bill would provide an option for the waterfall for veterans going through the loss mitigation by establishing a partial claim program. This program would bring the VA Home Loan Program on par with other programs such as FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac. Many of you have heard express my concerns and frustration with the idea of VA taking responsibility for as many 60,000 mortgages that would put American taxpayers on the hook when the foreclosures are to the tune of $16 trillion through VASP. This legislation would allow VA to provide limited assistance and includes mechanisms to encourage repayments as soon as veterans are able. I look forward to working with the minority to see if we can find a better way to help the veterans without destroying the VA Home Loan Program. Additional bills that we will consider will address the VRE program, adaptive automobile equipment, GI Bill, and homeless programs through the VA. I have reservations about some of these proposals on the agenda today, and the witnesses' testimony and questions from the members will hopefully address some of these issues so we can make an informed decision about whether to move these bills forward through the legislative process. We look forward to hearing from the members who have introduced these proposals, as well as our witnesses, on how we can continue to improve these bills and better the lives of our veterans. I now yield to my friend, Mr. Pappas, a ranking member for 5 minutes. Gentleman yields back. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Hey, this is, I always spout off and say this is not a bipartisan committee. This is a nonpartisan committee, and you're about to find out that I mean what I say. I don't care who is occupying the White House, whether it be a Democrat or a Republican. We have an oversight responsibility to our veterans, not to you. Mr. Pampern, you've been in that seat since 2021. Mr. Bell, you've been in that seat since 2022. And the answers that you gave to my ranking member were wholly underwhelming. Like, you managed to not answer any of the most softball questions you could possibly get. You're completely ill-prepared for this committee hearing. Completely. And that's unacceptable. So let's just bring something up here. Mr. Pappas, I'm going to apologize for these guys to you. I'm not going to tolerate that type of behavior towards my ranking member. I don't care who's in the White House. Is that clear, gentlemen? You shall be prepared when you come to these hearings. To be very clear, let me ask you, Mr. Bell, to your knowledge, did any member of the DOJ office direct who the Veterans Affairs Administration should release from employment?
Sir, I'll have to take that question for the record.
Okay, that's what you said to him the whole time.
Yes,
Mr. Pampern, to your knowledge, anyone from the Doge office direct the Veterans Affairs Administration who they should release from employment?
I will also have to take.
Okay, this is now going to be called the Pappas line of answers, I guess. So that's just not okay, gentlemen. The answer is no. The Doge office didn't tell you guys who to release. You guys made that decision, and I don't think it was done well. Are either one of you aware of a avenue of recourse if you feel that someone has been released that is going to negatively affect veterans' benefits? Are you aware? I am. There is. There's a way. If you guys feel, if any member of this committee or any of your constituents, gentlemen and gentlelady, feel that there's someone that's been released from the Veterans Affairs Administration and it's going to have a detrimental effect on your constituents, just bring it up, and there's a very clearly articulated way to get them back on board. I'd like to talk about this VASP thing again because this truly is a nightmare. So, Mr. Bell, how many folks are utilizing the VASP program right now, to your knowledge?
15,000, around 15,000.
15,117?
Yes, sir.
And then how much money is that?
So far, that's about $4.8 billion in just volume. But again, that's not taking into consideration the payments for monthly mortgage and interest.
Yep. And what was the original estimate per payment, per loan?
I'm sorry, sir, can I?
How much money did you think you were going to spend per loan that the VA bought up?
So our average loan amount is around 320.
Right, that's not what I asked you. I asked you what was the original estimate? It was $292,000, and it's actually $321,000. It doesn't seem like a lot of money, but when you run that by 17,000 cases, it turns out to be a lot of money. How many of these VA loans that you guys bought, how many folks have missed payments?
Right now, there's 31.
31 people?
Yes, sir.
And what are you doing with that?
They will be going through the foreclosure process in the particular states. Every state has different foreclosure requirements. So we are, again, this was a last resort option for our veterans.
I understand the whole developmental process of this, and it was moronic. You said that you don't know if the Veterans Affairs Administration has the statutory authority to do a partial payment. Is that right?
The original partial claim program,
Partial claim program.
no, sir.
Okay, so there's something, it's called HR 1815, and that's being introduced today. It's one of the bills we're supposed to be talking about instead of this other stuff, and that's real clear. And I know it because we wrote it. So this gives the Veterans Affairs Administration crystal clear authority for this partial claim thing. And you've got to get online with the rest of these agencies. So in my closing seconds here, I'm going to say this one more time. You guys need to get on your game. It does not matter who is sitting at the White House. I know that President Donald J. Trump is the strongest supporter of veterans of any president in my memory, and he expects more out of you. And you will make sure that when my ranking member is asking you questions that you have them at your fingertips. I'm going to go back and talk to Mr. Pappas later. Is wholly unacceptable. All right, you are excused. I hope you'll stick around for the second panel. Lady yields back. The chair now recognizes myself for 5 minutes. Okay. Let's talk about this VASP thing again here. Ms. Balsay, you are representing mortgage brokers. Let's say Mr. Peter has a loan and he doesn't pay the loan back. And Ms. Howell's the VA. Okay, so her nose, I know, she just crinkled her nose. Let the record reflect that Ms. Howell crinkled her nose. So Mr. Peter defaults on his loan, and you're getting stiffed, right? Because you're out of money. And then that loan's at, let's just say 8%, right? And then Ms. Howell goes, hey, I got a great idea. We're just sitting around here. Let's go ahead and buy the loan and reduce the interest rate from 8% to 2.5%. Who pays the difference? Because you expect to get paid, that you lent that money at 8%. You're expecting that money to come back, right? At 8%?
Correct.
Okay, so who pays the difference? Everybody in this room. So as a mortgage broker, I'd be like, yeah, this VASP thing's the best thing ever because it makes you whole. It gets rid of a bum loan and it passes it off to the American taxpayers. So let's be frank here, ma'am. If I were a mortgage broker, I'd say this is the best thing ever because I get to lend out all this money and then I get rid of it. Everyone else is going to pick up the slack. That's what's taking place here. So who administers this loan once Miss Howell has taken it over?
The VA's subservicer that they've hired.
Who is that?
I believe it's PHH.
Okay, and what else does PHH do?
They service loans for many other, they're a loan servicer.
Like who?
Various investors.
And what's the VIG?
Pardon?
What's the VIG? What are they getting? No one does anything for free, ma'am.
True. No one services loans for free, trust me. Right. But no, I do not. I'm not privy to the terms of their contract.
So the Veterans Affairs Administration is going to buy Mr. Peters' loan, make you whole for the delta between the interest rate agreed to and the interest rate it's going to be at now. And the VA doesn't know how to administer loans, so they hire somebody else out, probably the same people they were administering the loan to begin with.
So no, and look, I'm not made whole. I'm servicers, if I'm again the servicer here, I make money by servicing loans.
No, you're not the servicer.
So-
It's your loan.
Oh, I thought it was his loan.
Right, he borrowed the money from you.
Got it. Okay. Well, so it's my loan.
Right.
And VA bought it at 2.5%, which again, we modify loans in our portfolio back when interest rates were down to that
Right.
all the time. So the difference there, the delta, is just part of doing business. So his loan leaves me at Carrington. It goes to PHH.
Right.
I no longer have a loan to make money off of.
You don't.
PHH and the VA.
You don't have a loan to make money off of, but you got the money because the loan's been paid.
I was paid.
by the
There are
American-
losses
That's my
that
point,
I
ma'am.
suffer from each
Okay.
loan that leaves
So
my
my
portfolio.
point is this. It sounds like this great altruistic program, and it's not. And if I was a mortgage broker and I just had a mortgage broker hat on, I'd be like, let's keep this going. Let's keep it rolling. If I was just an American taxpayer, I took my mortgage broker hat off, I'd say this is a travesty. And it is, and we're not going to do it. So, Mr. Peter, can you expand a little bit between this? Because I think it's very salient, the point that you brought up, where the student loan program really sounded like a great idea. Can you kind of like draw the parallel here? Because everyone can clearly identify, including the Supreme Court of the United States, who said that President Biden did not have the legal authority to relieve these student loans. And he said, I'm going to do it anyway. So if everybody up and down the chain of command, except for the student who's getting this money for free, including the Supreme Court, says this is a bad idea, could you draw this parallel so that everybody understands the potential horrible ramifications for this?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, once the federal government takes over a loan and puts it on its own books, as this happened with the student loans, but here happens with the VASP program, where it becomes, from a private sector loan, becomes a direct loan on the books of the, in the case of a student loan of the Treasury, and now here in this case of the VA. They're not, the guardrails are gone. The federal government can just say, well, from now on, we're going to reduce the payments that you have to make. Or you just don't have to pay, for a certain amount of time, or after 15, 20 years, your loan is forgiven. And once in this scenario that he outlined, I may be talking to my other friends, and they realize that this is that they can get the same deal. They may stop making payments on their loans as well.
Mr. Peters, thank you. I want to be respectful of my colleagues' time, and my time has expired. I want to thank you all for attending this hearing, and I appreciate the discussion today, I really do. There's several bills in here that are awesome. There's a couple that need some work on it. I want to thank all the members and the subcommittee staff for working on this, and with that, I'd like to yield to my ranking member, Mr. Pappas, for any concluding remarks he may have.
Well, I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your comments, and I thank the intention of all the sponsors of these bills for trying to think about ways that we can improve services and programs that benefit America's veterans. And I agree with you. I think some of these bills are strong in their current form. Others are going to require us to sharpen our pencils. But I'm just really appreciative of this panel's feedback, and we look to continuing to engage with you all in the road ahead as we potentially head to marking up some of these bills. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Pappas. So just to be clear, I understand everyone's intentions are pure. I really do. I also understand that something is broken. And in the history of when someone lent someone some seashells to buy a cave, there was never a VASP program. It just didn't exist in the history of lending. And I don't think that, you know, a couple guys cooking up some ideas during a worldwide pandemic, I think they may have missed the mark boldly. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for participating in this, and I've received a number of statements for the record, which will be submitted into the record as long as they may meet the submission requirements. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include any extraneous material. Without objection, so ordered. This hearing is now adjourned.